If it's too late to worry and you're too blue to cry, then get ready for Dr. Lori Roth. She's a Ph.D., black belt, host, singer, songwriter, mom, gun owner, survivor, and red-blooded American through and through. From 3,000 feet up in the mountains of Washington, it's the Annie Oakley of the airwaves. Ready or not, here she comes, Dr. Lori Roth.
Welcome to our Unsolved Crime segment. Happy New Year to you all, and welcome aboard. This year is going to be a year that criminals pay, and justice is going to happen. It's going to happen. It just takes a little work. Susan Murphy-Milano has joined me every week at this time for some time. I mean, goodness gracious, I feel like I've known her forever now. She is a crime blogger. She is a survivor of her own nightmare and her father murdering her mother. She is a best-selling author, and she has a lot to say about how to survive danger in your life. And she has brought some guests with her. Monica Casson, founder of the Q Center for Missing Persons, and she has some other guests with her, too. Susan, welcome. Happy New Year to you, and introduce us to your guests.
Happy New Year to you as well. You know, this is a new year, but it's also new searches and new crimes across the country. The Q Center for Missing Persons is out there for families, so I urge everybody who has a case, I don't care how old you think the case is, please go to ncmissingpersons.org and register that case with that agency, and they can help you, and they help families. Our first case tonight is out of Desoto County, Mississippi. It's Sherry Smith Percival, Percival. She has been missing since May 31st of 2011. Joining us are her sister Brenda, and I think, Brenda, you could speak to, you know, the day, the circumstances of her missing. Could you please?
The last time I saw her was Memorial Weekend. She left my home on that Monday.
Okay.
And that was the last time I saw her and spoke with her.
And what do you know about her just disappearing that day? I mean, what does anybody know, Brenda, about this?
Well, she left with her boyfriend. They stayed at my home that weekend, and she went home. Of course, she stayed with him, and he was the last person to actually see her. And
can we talk about the boyfriend a little bit, Brenda? Because he has some kind of a unique past, doesn't he? Did he do time for manslaughter?
Yes, ma'am.
10 years?
Yes, ma'am.
So he's already, Lori, he's got a dangerous background as it is. He's got more than a dozen convictions on DUI, on hurting other people. He's last seen with her at this Handshake Lounge in Edora, Mississippi. That's who she's been with for about a year. Does your sister, does she know about his background when she starts to date him?
I think it was after she was into the relationship, it was when she actually found out. I did not know he had that background when he was at my home Memorial Weekend.
Did he smell bad? You know, these guys sometimes smell too good to be true. I mean, was he nice? Was he just over friendly and attentive?
Well, that was the first time I ever met him. So she didn't bring him around here, I guess, because of the past, and she knew that I would throw a fit, so to speak. And that was the first time she ever brought him to my home. So that was the first time I ever met him. So I really didn't know about his past.
What would you think about him when you first met him? Because usually you can tell when you first meet these guys.
He was kind of quiet. Like I said, I had a bunch of people at my home that weekend. It was Memorial Weekend, and we were doing a barbecue thing, you know, family and friends, and he seemed kind of quiet. He talked more to my husband than he did me because I was being host.
Did you notice any? Well, we'll talk on the other side. Obviously, we're wondering about this dude she was with who saw her the day she disappeared.
That's right.
Okie dokie. We're talking with Brenda about the disappearance of her sister Sherry and Monica Casson.
American Idol. Keep your shirt on and keep your powder dry. Dr. Lori Roth will be back in just mere moments. Her name name is Dr. Lori Roth, and here she is again, right now.
I'm talking with Susan Murphy Milano. She's a crime blogger. And I don't talk very well yet because I'm still very sick. And Susan noticed, she says, you don't sound very good. Well, I'm not really good, actually. I'm faking my way through. We have Brenda, the sister of Sherry Smith Percival, who has been missing since 5:31. There's no 37. 5:31:11. And Monica Cason of the Q Center. Susan Murphy Milano, we're all talking through this case, and Brenda, you were explaining that the last day you saw your sis was 5:31. Okay, and the boyfriend, you were describing this guy, he'd been in prison at some time for manslaughter. Okay, that's not a good idea. He'd been with her, Sherry. She'd been dating him for a year. Were they living together, or sometimes, or what was it? Were they close?
Yes, ma'am. They were staying together.
Okay, so they were close. They were living together.
Yes, ma'am.
So they were an item. They weren't just dating among other people. They were an item. Okay. You saw her that day. How did she seem that day? Did you notice anything? You've probably thought about it 1,200 times.
Yeah, I've thought about it a lot. Actually, I was sitting in the living room, and she was walking through the kitchen, and they were leaving, and she was looking at me, and she said, "Bye, Brendan," and I said, "Bye, call me later or call me this week or something," and that's the last thing.
Did she have a cell phone?
Last thing.
Brenda?
She had a cell phone, yes, ma'am.
Where was it? Was it on her? Was it found?
No, they said they couldn't find it.
Did you know the number of the cell phone to give to the police?
Yes, ma'am, I did, and they said it was turned off.
Okay, so she walks out of the house with this guy. Now, what is his story? What does he say about all this, since he's the last one?
He said, well, the last thing they asked him was where she was, and he said, "I told you she was in Mexico."
So she just walked out without any vehicle to go to Mexico?
Exactly.
Monica, you see all these cases. I mean, is this troublesome, normal? I mean, are you seeing the pattern in these partner violence cases all to be the same?
Yes, they just always come up with some odd, random, oh, well, they left or they said they were going shopping, but they had spoke about going to Connecticut, something like that. It's just, and it's always around, some kind of holiday or when they feel, threatened. There could have been something going on we really didn't know, but it seemed like they were getting along. Maybe something went south after they left there because she had been around her family, and that will usually spark, some sort of domestic violence. It's usually when you've had a good day, and it just never ends that way. I don't know. So these guys read the handbook. We see that a lot.
I think if you look at all the cases that the Q Center represents, that those are missing females, the excuse or the reason, just as this bozo says that, he doesn't know, she just went on her own, it's pretty much exact. They don't change it around at all. They don't get creative. They just say, well, she took off, she left, I don't know. But it's all kind of the same pattern of conduct, isn't it?
Okay, I'm still dumbstruck by what he tried to pull, what you were saying, Monica or Brenda. I mean, he said she, when they left your house, that she decided she was going to go to Mexico by herself?
Well, the story has it that within that week, within June 1st, within that week, he had took her to the handshake and left her. And that was the last place that really anybody saw her is at the handshake.
And that was like a bar or something?
Yes, ma'am, that's a bar in Eudora where they lived.
Okay, so they saw them together there.
Yes, ma'am, and they left together.
Oh, they left together, and then she disappeared. And when the police interviewed him, they had an argument, or why would she go to Mexico alone?
That's what he's saying. That's where she was, but he has contradicting stories as what he keeps saying that she's at. Even his sister's seen her in town, and she left with the truck driver, and...
Oh, Lord.
But what's interesting, though, he's in jail right now for stealing or trying to use her food stamps, isn't he?
Yes, ma'am. And
that's something we learned today as well, that this guy tried to... I didn't realize it that food stamps had a stamp on it, or that you would know if they were yours or not.
Well,
It comes in a card
like a
now,
debit
doesn't it?
card.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a Lynx card.
He had him on film using it after the fact.
So that's a federal charge, no?
Yes, ma'am.
So that means that, so he's in jail right now awaiting that. That's federal. Plus, is this individual on probation from just getting out for the 10 years of the manslaughter charge?
I have no idea whatsoever. I have no clue.
But he insists he had nothing to do with the disappearance of Sherry.
That's correct. He won't look at her pictures, what the investigators are telling me. He won't take a lie detector test. He keeps saying that she's here, there, and yonder, or wherever, but yet she's not calling home. She's not making contact. She's
was
not
she?
picking up her
Was he employed?
He laid pipe, so he traveled a lot, and he did travel with her, but he was not working at the time that this all took place.
Monica, in a case like this, do you look for possibly, if you can, his family, his friends, to see if somebody comes forward that way? Does that ever turn up anything?
Yeah, you have to reach out to as many people as you can, but the main thing is really checking for, Jane Doe's in, farther away, maybe like states away or whatnot, because the reality of her giving her survival, which is her card that she's going to be able to get food and sources on, she's going to give it to him and say, and then take off to Mexico is just not even a reality, or take off anywhere at that point. I mean, if anything, if she was in any kind of trouble or needed help, she had just left her family. She had reconnected and connected with, family members throughout the week, and there's no reason why she wouldn't have called someone.
Well, and it doesn't sound like she had a mountain full of money anyway. If she was on food stamps, she's just going to run off to Mexico alone? Is that the deal?
Did she even have a passport?
No, ma'am.
And she's 50 years old, so where is she going?
Exactly. And she was on a lot of medication. And
medication for what?
She took albuterol, inhalers. Mm-hmm. She was on blood thinner. She was taking heart medication.
So she was on albuterol. She was on Coumadin?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And she had some health concerns.
Medicine. And that just stopped. She just stopped picking up her medicine. Totally.
So was this dude investigated at all? Did anybody probe this, or was just the fact that he said he didn't have anything to do with it, was that considered okay? I'm stunned that he wasn't searched, or the place wasn't searched, or his cars, or whatever.
Well, they're telling me that they had no evidence to proceed with conviction, I guess, or pressing charges against the man. All they could get him with was the food stamp fraud.
But did they share an apartment together, Brenda?
Yes, ma'am. They stayed with his parents when he was in town.
So then there would be nothing that anybody could have access to.
Right.
Are his parents cooperating or talking to anybody?
No.
No.
He admitted to burning her belongings. He did admit that.
He burned her belongings?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, he set them on fire.
Yep. He admitted to that. And his mother had her rings.
So his mother had your sister's rings. Isn't that theft? Can't they take the photos that you already have? If the mother's got the rings, and the police can go in and do something with that. If he's got the rings, those were on her all the time, right?
Well, they had possession of the rings.
Well, what I find stunning is he's burning her possessions. He gives her rings to the mom. Is it clear? Does he say they broke up when she took off to Mexico? Was she going for a weekend stroll to Mexico? It doesn't sound like they were breaking up. So why would someone give away your rings and burn your stinking clothes? I mean, what is... hello?
And why are you wearing a dead woman's ring? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Where is this mother of this killer, in my opinion? Where is this mother? Where's her head at? It's okay for her to wear somebody's rings that obviously that there's at the hand of somebody that made her not here anymore. That is sick. And I hope that this woman is listening and has a conscience. It's called God. That's terrible.
Exactly. And there's a lot of things that I still don't understand, just things that I've learned, since this has been going on. It's like, you've got to be kidding me. Do what? It's like, I don't understand it, just like his sister saying she's seen her in Hernando just the other day, and it just...
His sister, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, they need to get off the whatever they're inhaling. What about this? What about your sister? When's the last time? Who reports her missing?
I did. It was me.
What's the date you report her missing?
September 10th.
Okay, so September the 10th. You report her missing September the 10th, and this is back from May.
Yes, ma'am. We thought, I called my aunt. She was keeping in touch with my aunt because all her mail was going over to her house. And she said, oh, yeah, I talked to her. And I said, okay, so she's doing okay, blah, blah, blah. So it was like a miscommunication in there. She was saying she was talking to her, but she wasn't talking to her. My aunt's like senile, so she really couldn't
you
remember.
verified that wasn't ever happening. So Sherry hadn't been talking to your aunt.
Right.
Okay. All right.
That's why we did not report her missing until September.
For anybody that's listening, do you know, and this is not a criticism, but anybody that's listening, the moment you suspect something is wrong, I don't care whose feelings you are hurting, it's better to be safe because important time, like in this case, is lost. Exactly. And it's important to call immediately. Don't worry about whose feelings are going to hurt or who's going to be upset. This person is missing. You don't know where they are. You can't locate them. The first thing you need to do, especially since in this case your sister wasn't married,
right?
And so you're a concerned family. Monica, speak to this. How you see this all the time.
You never even reached out to the family. When she didn't, return back home, which obviously had been with her over a year. You think that red flags would go up, and even if they had been in an argument or anything, the first thing you're going to do is call around to people and say, hey, have you seen her? He didn't reach out and let the family know that she wasn't accounted for, so that's another red flag.
Right. And see, he
didn't reach out to friends. It wasn't like he was in this panic, like where is she at, and trying to get some kind of help to find some kind of information. You just don't assume somebody left, unless they storm out and say, I'm leaving you and I'm not coming back. But still, even at that, most men are going to try to track you down.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right. This doesn't sound right at all.
His mother had conversations with my dad and my stepmom all the time. I mean, they would, talk back and forth or whatever. So it wasn't like she just said, hey, I'm leaving you for a little while. And, they never called and wanted to know where she was, looking for her, or nothing. He just started burning her stuff. Like she wasn't coming back ever again. It was just... And
Mama's got the rings, which you should get back. What is she doing with them?
And they told me that she had pawned them, and she went and got them out for her so she wouldn't lose them. Well, I know my sister. She'd have come to me, my aunt, my dad, somebody.
So now we have a liar. That's good.
Right. They're not going to get these, She wouldn't have just hand over her stuff to them. She wouldn't have done it.
So in the photos that you have of her, are the rings that the mother-in-law has, are they on her fingers?
One of them are.
Okay, if the mother-in-law is listening, I do not think she wants my wrath. I'm very serious about this. We've done it before. I will come there myself to Missouri, where you are, and I will make sure that you will be arrested for a felony. That's stolen property. You were, the lies, because she can't prove pawn shop. She can't prove that ring. She got it because her son gave it to her. She is then obstructing justice and part of a potential murder investigation. Mm-hmm. So, Mom, if you're listening, go ahead and just give the ring back and talk to police and tell them what you know. I mean, I think that's crucial.
Law enforcement
the investigators have the rings.
They do. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, what else does she have? She needs to come clean.
That's all that they have. The rest of her belongings were burned.
So they say.
Hold that thought. We'll be back on the other side.